Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week on the program, we're taking a closer look into the drone strikes by Israel into Iran after the International Atomic Energy Agency formally declared Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. 19 of the 35 countries on the board of the IAEA voted in favor of the motion, which was backed by the US, UK, France, and Germany. According to the IAEA, Iran's many failures to provide the IAEA with full answers about its undeclared nuclear material and activities constitutes non-compliance. It also expressed concern about Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, which can be used to make reactor fuel, but also nuclear weapons. Hours after that report, Israel bombarded Iran's military and nuclear sites with drone strikes, which Iran retaliated, and these attacks remain ongoing on both sides.
A massive blaze was seen in southern Tehran following the Israeli strikes. While the fire appeared to originate from Tehran's oil refinery, Iran's oil ministry said in a statement the refinery was fully intact and continued to operate normally. Meanwhile, Iran launched a second night of missile attacks against Israel on Saturday. Various of what appeared to be missiles were seen over the skies above Jerusalem, and explosions were heard overhead also in other parts of Israel, including Tel Aviv, on Saturday. Iran's Revolutionary Guard spokesperson Ali Mohammed Naini said Iranian strikes had hit Israel's fighter jet fuel production facilities and energy supply centers, were targeted with a large number of drones and missiles. He promised a new wave of the Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Forces offensive operations will continue if the aggressions and mischief persist, expanding and becoming more destructive. The country's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told foreign ambassadors on Sunday that Iran possesses conclusive evidence that the United States supported recent Israeli strikes on Iranian military and nuclear sites. According to him, the Israeli regime's aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran could never have happened without the agreement and support of the United States.
این باشد که ایران رو از حقوق هسته‌ای خودش محروم بکنه، طبیعی هست که برای چنین توافقی آمادگی نداریم.
He also referenced public remarks by US President Donald Trump in support of Israel's actions, stating that these confirmed Washington's complicity.
دخالتی در این حمله نداشته و نخواهد داشت.
At the UN Security Council, Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon said Iran continued to build towards the unthinkable.
We waited while the IAEA reported that Iran had obstructed inspectors, destroyed monitoring equipment, and accelerated its covert special development program. We waited while Iran developed trigger mechanisms, detonation systems, and plans for warheads. We waited while its leadership actively recruited more nuclear scientists. We waited while Iran constructed a ballistic missile industry so large and sophisticated, and we can expose it now, that it was intended to challenge even the US and Russia in ballistic missile capabilities.
These acts of aggression and unlawful strikes target peaceful nuclear facilities, military sites, vital civilian infrastructure, and residential areas.
Meanwhile, planned talks on Iran's nuclear program, which could provide an off-ramp, have been cancelled, and the region braces for a protracted conflict following Israel's bombardment of Iran on Friday, killing several top generals and nuclear scientists.
Joining us now to discuss the resurrected conflict between Israel and Iran is security and public affairs analyst Alexander Okonkwo. He joins us from here in Lagos. Alexander, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Let's start from the genesis of the problem between Israel and Iran. Israel has always seen Iran as an existential threat. It's accused Iran of wanting to wipe out the existence of Israel, and Iran believes that Israel's intentions are to bomb the Palestinians into oblivion. But that just scratches the surface, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I will add to that vice versa. Everything you said, we can say vice versa. Iran also believes that Israel is an existential threat, that Israel is going to cause commotion in the Middle East, and that Israel is let me say, the error in the pack. Because if you look at the map of the Middle East, you're wondering why Israel is actually there. So the Iranians, ever since, I mean, I'll go back to history, 1947, voted against the British, protectorate that wanted Israel to install themselves in the land called Palestine today. So Iran has been against Israel right from the beginning. There was a little bit of peace during the era of the Shah. When the Shah came in, it was a pro-Western government, but that didn't last too long. Ever since the Cold War era, Iran has always wanted Israel to not to exist, so to say, the Israel that we know. Now, that said, we have to understand that the relationships between these countries are also linked to the superpowers at that time. So Iran was closer to the Soviet bloc, while Israel has always been an ally of the United States of America. That has continued. What we have today is a bit of a weakened Soviet bloc, so to say, that doesn't exist anymore, actually. And the US still running strong, so to say. So it unbalances what looked like a balanced situation. I would say we were more in a peaceful situation when there were two blocks, international blocks, because they countered each other. Everybody knew that if the USA supported Israel too much, the Soviet Union would support Iran. So that balanced the global structure. What is happening now is a bit of, if you look at it very well, it's a bit of tilt. Some even say the aggressor is pretending to be a victim because he has the big brother that can back him. But what you know might deceive you. A lot of people are ready to back Iran. In fact, if you look at the Russia-Ukraine war, Iran supplies drones to Russia. So they are allies. It's just that nobody wants a world war. But in Iran, actually, is a very close ally to Russia. So, I mean, this is historic. Their enmity is historic, and they are both proxies of the bigger brothers, so to say. So it's something that's been going on historically. I mean, many of us are not surprised at all.
And it brings us, to modern history, because Iran is believed to be, by many countries, to be developing nuclear weapons. Israel has always believed that Iran is developing nuclear weapons, even though Iran has denied this several times. It says it's enriching uranium for peaceful purposes. But the International Atomic Energy Agency's report recently, last week, I think, finally acknowledged in some sense that Iran is enriching uranium beyond peaceful purposes. Do you believe that Iran has been lying to the rest of the world about its nuclear program, whether or not the world believes it or not?
Well, it is not as black and white as we might make it seem. The truth is, Iran has never hidden the fact that they've been developing uranium capacity. What they have been saying is that they will not go to the level of developing nuclear weapons as in offensive weapons against Israel, because all this is about distance. Of course, if you know the geographics of that area, Iran is not necessarily the border with Israel. But what we're talking about is that the nuclear range that can get to Israel in a short time. That's all we're talking about in terms of uranium anyway, because uranium is being used for civil activity, civil engineering, so electricity creation. So it is useful all around the country. Germany has it, France has it, South Korea has it as well, Japan as well. What we are saying is that, and what the Iranians are actually asking is that, why would Israel have a uranium capacity and nuclear capacity and Iran will not have? If the history we just mentioned now is true, that they've been enemies from time, why would Pakistan have a nuclear energy and India will not have? It's the same story. Why would North Korea have and South Korea will not have? You get what I'm saying? So yeah. It doesn't make logical sense to assume that one side of the coin would have something that can destroy their enemy and the other side would not have. The Iranians have never hidden the fact that they've been working on nuclear and uranium. It is just the capacity to be nuisance to Israel that people are checking. And that's why the US is very interested in this. By the way, we must remember the first coming of Trump Trump actually catapulted the agreement which was already in place under the Obama regime. So let's be aware of what's going on. If you look at cause and effect, every time the US has a right-wing president like they do now, and that Israel, I mean, I don't know if it's just by random, also has a right-wing president, they seem to look for war, because war is beneficial to the aggressor. War is also beneficial to those who are making money from it. So why won't you go for war? After all, Iran has no capacity to attack the US. What I say again, those nuclears cannot get to the US as we speak. They cannot go to even any of the Western countries, but they can get to Israel. So in one side, Israel is actually trying to defend itself. We can understand that, right in the middle of the Middle East. But they cannot now stop Iran from being able to defend themselves. What is the point of going to fight a boxing match where somebody comes with a glove protection and everything, and you come just empty-handed? You'll be boxed out immediately. So we need to sit down here and ask ourselves that question. What is the end game of the US-backed Israeli government, the current Netanyahu government? What is the end game? What do they seem to want to achieve with this clear-cut aggression? Because Iran must continue their uranium capacity. Why would they stop it? Give me one reason why would they stop it. Who is going to protect them in case Israel attacks them with nuclear? So there's no reason, there's no justification to ask Iran to stop their own nuclear while Israel potentially has nuclear protection. It doesn't make sense. I mean, what is it not tit for tat? Well, why are we saying they are better citizens than the others? Nobody would justify that anywhere in the global structure.
But perhaps, some of this, for some of these checks, I guess, on Iran could also stem from the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons that was signed by 18 nations back between 1965 and 1968. And I think that was the main problem, with North Korea when it began again to enrich uranium. This was when Kim Jong-un took over. I think this was in the early 2000s or so, when the North Korean leader came on board. The US and these other countries also had the same problem with North Korea. And even though they tried to stop them, they have continued to develop to enrich uranium. Now they have nuclear weapons. Well, it is believed that they're close to having nuclear weapons.
They have the capacity, because this is the same reason we just mentioned earlier. There is no reason why, if you and I are fighting, you will have more arms than I am. Of course, it's unbalanced. You would invade me, and that's what's going on. Look, the current situation is that Israel took 200 Air Force jets, all American Air Force jets, to go into Iran, a sovereign nation that has an army, a flag, and a government, and attack them overnight. Ordinarily, anywhere in the world, the war has started. Any other country in the world, if it was not Israel and Iran, we should be at war as we speak. Why would you be able to do that? And then go freely? What gives you the authority to do that? But I'm not saying that Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself. But Iran equally has a right to defend itself. I mean, shouldn't we be talking about the international community? International community means what it means. The problem here is that somebody seems to be protecting one part of the international community against the others. We cannot create our own enemies just because we wish to. The point is, as we speak today, because the IAEA was not able to do some inspections last week, Israel used that loophole to launch an attack. And I dare say that they are almost launching this attack on behalf of the US, because the US government was supposed to go into negotiations with Iran in the coming days. A US Secretary of State was supposed to visit with Iran in Oman and have discussions about the general proliferation of nuclear. This puts pressure on Iran to go for that negotiation, but it is backfiring, because what is Iran doing? Iran is saying, okay, because of these attacks, we're not coming to the table anymore. You know, the idea of trying to pressure somebody to discuss with you under faiblesse. Iran has now said, fine, we don't want to discuss anymore. And in fact, the Chinese government have been talking with Iran. What do you think they're talking about? It's not just trade. Everybody is looking for a defensive mechanism, because if this escalates into a bigger war, everybody will have to choose his sides.
So I hate to say this, but it seems like we are on the periphery of a major world war. I mean, not just about Israel and Iran, but there's also, what's it called now, Russia and Ukraine. And then we have conflicts on the continent as well that we're fighting, which makes it, puts us even in a weaker position to actually influence anything.
Yes, it is. You're very correct. But our localized conflicts are secondary. You forgot a major conflict, which is Pakistan, Iran. Pakistan, India. And they are on the bridge of war as well as we speak right now. And the two countries have nuclear. So what is going to happen eventually if it escalates and expands? Those are two words. It can escalate and also expand. Because it can actually escalate without expanding. But if it escalates and expands, all these other countries I've mentioned will be called to join one way or the other. And we can bet where India is going and where Pakistan is going. And we can bet where Brazil will go to and where Canada will go to. So, and that is how wars start. But in terms of what concerns Africa, our risk for now is more economic than, I would say, political, because we will not be asked immediately to join hands. And Nigeria is in a very good position. We are non-aligned. We're a non-aligned nation. So what it does means is that we talk to everybody. We have friends in China, we have friends with the US, we have friends with the EU. So we are non-aligned, unlike maybe some other countries in Africa that are actually aligned and they would have to join one of the axes or not. So for now, I would say, and there's no need to be too scared about it, it is more of an economic risk in terms of prices doubling and access to goods reducing. And in fact, people not investing, because countries are going to be investing more in ammunition and arms and safety than in, I don't know, in tomatoes or groundnut oil. So it's obvious that it's first an economic problem. But if it continues, then it becomes a more political problem where we'll have to decide which way we go. But I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, and I guess the non-aligned position that Nigeria adopts is what has led to its condemnation of Israel's attack on Iran. It's called for peace between both parties as the strike continues. We also saw the same thing when Russia and Ukraine started off this war. The government also taking on a non-aligned approach, calling on both parties to, help resolve this. But you could also almost imagine that this advice that's being given from Nigeria could have more of a religious coloring than diplomatic.
Yes, and that would be the biggest mistake we will make as a country. Let me take the two sides clearly. There are Nigerians, let's put it on the Christian side of our brothers and sisters, that think that we should naturally be with Israel. And first, they're making a mistake that Israel represents Christianity. Totally wrong. It's just it's a sense of ignorance to believe that the Israeli government is a Christian government. No, they are Jewish, Judaism. It's totally different. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're not fighting for the holy land that you've read in the Bible. We're now fighting for a land that was actually where Palestinians were living in all their lives and was given to Israelis coming from different parts of Europe and America after the World War. In fact, during the World War, but it continued after the World War. So these things should be clear. It is not the biblical position that you saw, or you read in the Bible with Solomon and all that we're talking about. We're talking about a ground in the holy space of Jerusalem that where the Palestinians were residing, and they were chased away several decades ago. So it's two different things. That's on the Christian side. On the Muslim side, of course, Iranians are Shia Muslims at, let's say, 98%. So there is a part of Nigeria that is a little bit friendly to that side. So one can understand their kind of compassion for like brothers, let me put it that way. But it's not really the case. It's between the Iranian government that is pro-nuclear and against the existence of Israel, and the current Israeli government of Netanyahu that is right-wing, very, very aggressive, and does not want any existence around Israel. Both sides are wrong. I tell you right now, both sides are wrong. Israel has never been close to destruction as it is now, because Netanyahu always goes for conflict instead of peace. Every time he comes into government, and he has come into government 3 or 4 times, he comes with aggression. He gets voted out, and then Israel tries to talk about peace again. Has anybody asked what Israel wants to obtain with this attack? Has Netanyahu, in any of his speech, mentioned exactly what is the objective? He cannot say he wants to destroy Iran. That's impossible. So what does he want by attacking? And then on the Iranian side, why would they not come out and say they accept the existence of Israel and that they are not using the nuclear clearly, allow inspection so that we see that they cannot attack Israel? Because I told you it's a question of distance. The Israelis are suspected that the kind of nuclear that Iran is going to put in place will be able to attack them in a short distance. That is all we're talking about, because no country can stop another country from developing uranium capacity, because you use it for energy, you use it for so many things, use it for construction and all that. So you cannot tell a country not to do uranium. What you want to know is if that uranium can be offensive to you, the closest neighbor. That's all we're talking about here. And that's why the Russians don't want the EU states to put their Ukraine as one of their members in NATO, because that means they can now install uranium capacity nuclear heads right there in Ukraine, and it's close to Russia. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about distance. So nobody's right in this confrontation. They're both wrong.
Yeah, perhaps in an attempt to answer the question about what Israel intends to achieve with Iran, I believe because Iran is a huge sponsorer and of Hezbollah, which has in a number of times attacked Israel. Might be one of the major reasons why Israel is attacking Iran at this time. I'm not sure exactly that it wants to eliminate the existence of Iran, but I've heard people talk about a two-state solution could be, the solution to this, to ending the Israel-Hamas war. Why would that not be a solution right now?
No, it will not be a solution right now. Oh, okay, let's take it step by step. Actually, it is the best solution. On the long term, it is definitely what should happen. Because why would the Palestinians don't want a state? They've been fighting for that for over 60 years. Why would they not want a flag recognized? Why would they want to take part in activities with the Arab League and the international community? Obviously, they want that. The problem is every time we have a right-wing government in Israel, they don't seem to want that. Netanyahu has not mentioned a two-state. In all his discussions, go and check it. In the last years, he has never mentioned a two-state possibility because he doesn't want that. And the question is, why wouldn't you want that? Because obviously, look, I believe with the current conflict going on, what Israel is creating is more enemies. Any 14-year-old boy that has seen his family decimated with this bombardment is waiting for his turn to revenge. There's no way you're going to get that guy to come and sit down and talk about peace. So by exaggerating this campaign, this war campaign, Israel is not doing itself a favor. You are creating long-term enemies. Do you know what is saving Israel? It's just that Iran has very bad relationships with other Arab League members. Otherwise, why are the other Arab countries not joining hands? Because on one side, there are Shia Muslims in Iran, and there are Sunnite Muslims in Saudi Arabia, and they are not doing too well together. Remember the war in Yemen. So they're not doing too well together. If they were to work together, we won't be talking about a war, because the Arab countries will have combined and worked together. So Israel itself does not have any reason to go into conflict at this time, because you're just creating enemies for the future. You're just making people that will have revenge after revenge. I would really let us go for the two-state solution, as long as the US wants it. But I'm not even sure Donald Trump wants that. Remember, Donald Trump was saying we should move people out of Gaza. Remember, he said that, and that to make Gaza a beach or something, or a resort. So even the Western world is not very clear with this two-state solution, and it's been going on for decades. A lot of people are lying to themselves. The EU came out today and said Israel has a right to defend itself. But who is the aggressor here? As of today, who is the aggressor? You should also, why you say that, say Iran has the right to defend itself. Or are you saying Iran should just watch and the bombardments will happen in Tehran? It's not going to happen. So I think everybody should sit down. Maybe this is where countries like Nigeria, countries like India, countries like Brazil, South Africa can have a say. We should work on the two-state solution and put it through to United Nations. Let leaders of this community, this international community, have courage to go for that. What we are lacking is courage. We're lacking men and women of strong leadership that can actually tell Israel, guys, sit down. There is nothing to gain from fighting Iran. There's nothing to gain. I've checked it. I've looked at it all through. Besides showing might, military might, I don't know what the solution is. You're just isolating yourself the more in that region.
Thank you so much, Alexander. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and we hope that we can make many more appearances here on Diplomatic Channel. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.
That's the program this week. I'll see you next time. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Bye for now.